So, oh yeah, right, okay, yep, yep. It was off, I wanted to ring. Okay, it is 1 o'clock, and so I call this meeting to order, and I'd like to recognize that we are meeting on the traditional territories of the Hepetchisset and Tishat First Nation, and also that we're coming up on the recognition of reconciliation on Thursday or Friday, so we're kind of moving towards that a few at a time, but we want to recognize that reconciliation is a mainstay of this board, and we've moved in that direction positively over the last several years. So I would like to introduce the board members that we have in the room and the staff. So starting with Kel Roberts from Long Beach, and we have Daniel, our CAO, Wendy, administrative, and we have Kenny Cote from Spoke Lake, and we have Alex in the background. He's probably our computer scientist today. Not quite sure. Sometimes we need that. So we've had a death in our corporate family in the regional district, and that is Freeman of the City. I'm the secretary treasurer, Jim Sawyer. And so I'm going to ask for a moment of silence. I've worked and been around Jim for many, many years, and he was an awesome fellow that did a lot for the community. So if we could just take that one moment and remember Jim. Thank you. Thank you very much. And so I'd ask for an approval of the agenda. Somebody. Director Cote, Director Roberts, are there any additions to the agenda? None. So all in favor? Anybody opposed? It's carried. And so the next thing we have is adoption of minutes from the board meeting of August 24th, 2022. Director Cote, Director Roberts, everybody waving all over the place. Is there any errors or omissions in those minutes? Director Cote? Sorry.
Thank you. So on page 13, Marine Strategy Online Information Session is scheduled, I believe that's October, not September 19th.
Cool, mate. Any idea? Anybody?
13?
Well, we can clarify that point.
Okay.
Staff can clarify it and put it in the minutes as correct. So other than that correction, anything else? All in favor? Anybody opposed? Oh, we're good. Carrying on. Like that. Oh, that's a hospital agenda. That's not I'm looking at the wrong agenda. One screen says it's right, the other one says it's wrong. Okay, so next we got the report with regards to 325. Nope, that's not.
I move that the Alberni Valley and Banfield Service Committee.
Hang on a second. Got it. Buried under the pile. Sorry about that. Okay. So we had our approval agenda. We forgot about declarations. Have anybody received any gifts of $250 or more? Nobody? We're good. And so we have the adoption of the minutes of that. The Alberni Valley Banfield Services Committee meeting, September 7th, 2022.
Excuse me,
Okay.
Chair.
Yes.
Do declarations have to include contributions to campaigns?
No, I don't believe so. That's under a right of its own. I appreciate that, though. The minutes of the Banfield meeting. And seconder, Diane. Is there any errors or omissions in those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Okay, the special board meeting of the Board of Directors, September 7th, 2022. We move the minutes. Dr. Cote, Director Roberts, any errors in that? All in favor? Carried. And the Committee of the Whole meeting, September 21, 2022. So they move those minutes. Director Roberts, Director Bodner, and any errors in that? All in favor? Anybody opposed? Carried. Petitions and delegations. So first of all, we have Marlena Locke, Sport Lake Marine Patrol, lead hand regarding the 2022 Sport Lake Marine Patrol year-end wrap-up. So Marlena, here or online? Online. Marlena, you're on. Oh, there you go.
Hi, sorry, it's been a while.
So you have 10 minutes to give us the whole story, and if you're going to go longer than that, I'll let you know that you're at that peak, and the board can decide if they want to carry on or cut it short. So
Okay.
you're on. Thank you very much.
I'm just trying to share my screen with you. Bear with me, I apologize.
Marlena, do you have the document that you want to present open on your laptop? Because you want to have that open first. So, and then there should be a share button. And then at the bottom, share screen, once you have your document open on your computer.
I apologize, I don't want to take too much of your time, but it's not coming up here. If Michael's there, would you be able to share it on your end and I can go off of that?
Might take a bit to do that, Marlena. So
Okay.
he is able to, so I think you're good. There you go.
Okay, sorry about that. I just had it up. Okay, anyways, my name's Marlena. I was the lead hand for the 2022 season with the Sport Lake Marine Patrol. But yeah, thank you for your time. Thanks for letting me share a little bit about what we did this summer and share some photos with you. So going on to the next slide. Yeah, I'll just start by sharing a little bit about our team. So next to me is Cole Robinson, Aaron Torfs, and Ryan Tramer. They were all first years. However, we were very lucky. They all had lots of different skills to bring to the table, and we had a really successful season. Okay, you can go to the next one. Yeah, so this year something different that we did is we added a lot more training to our team. So that was a lot of fun. You can see in the photos we had some fun in Tofino where we did our small commercial vessel basic safety course. And that was a full busy day in Tofino of theory. And then the trainer came to Sprout Lake and did water training with us, which is the photo up on the right. We also did our vessel registration and licensing training with Transport Canada. We did that via Zoom this year, and that's something that we do every year, just learning how to recognize if boats have proper registration and licensing. And then we did trailer training with Mel, and what that looked like was just learning how to back up a boat trailer, how to maneuver it in different ways so that we could not only do it ourselves, but teach people launching their boat how they can improve. And then we did a fun little conflict resolution workshop in the office with Michael, which was very useful. All right, so this year, Mike and I worked together to come up with a mission statement that would outline our goals. So I'll just read that to you. The Sprout Lake Marine Patrol will promote a responsible and safe marine culture through education, communication, and lead by example. The Sprout Lake Marine Patrol will assist those in need to the best of their abilities and training. The Sprout Lake Marine Patrol will promote Sprout Lake as a tourist destination. So that's a pretty general statement. However, I'll show you how we were able to succeed that through 5 different ways. So the first way, and arguably the most important, was just being a presence on the lake. And what that looked like was us out on our big red Zodiac there, where we would monitor for unsafe boating, look for any concerns on the lake like wildfires. We'd mark deadheads, report hazards, and then of course helping boats that were in need. So looking for anyone broken down who might need a tow or a jump start. And then there's the environmental aspect as well, looking for invasive species, wildlife, and yeah. We also did a little bit of water testing this year where we just focus on change in water temperature. And we also monitor turbidity, which it all looked great this year. Okay, and then the second way that we're able to achieve our mission statement is through education. So this is done at the beginning of the year. I actually did it by myself this year. I went into the schools and did a little safety presentation to students, just about water safety and boating safety. And then we also have QR codes around the launch that will talk a lot about like minimum safety requirements. And yeah, and then we also, of course, educate boaters coming through at the launch. That's usually the best way to go about it. People who are actually getting ready to go out on the water. And then the third part, or the third way that we achieved our mission statement was through public assistance. So one way that we can interact with the public that way is with our PFD loaner station. And we had plenty of donations this year of new life jackets, which was great. So we were able to have life jackets of all sizes available at the boat launch. And yeah, that seemed to be a success. We had a lot of people borrowing life jackets and it's completely free. And then, of course, we helped a lot of people with jump starts, tows, all of that. And we are fully equipped in our little shed with all the safety equipment we might need if the public's in an emergency. And then we did a lot of chatting with tourists and boats, giving navigational assistance, kind of marking off hazards on the lake. And yeah. And then another way that we achieve our mission statement is through coordination of the boat launch. If any of you ever use the boat launch, you know that it can be quite chaotic and busy, considering it's the only public launch on the lake. So our job is to make it a little less stressful for people launching by just directing traffic, directing parking. And yeah, sometimes the stress and tension's a little bit high. So we're pretty good at calming people down and making things go a little bit more smoothly. And then, yeah, so this has been our most recent expansion to the program, which is our social media. This is our second year really pushing our information on social media. And as you can see, it has been beneficial. In that photo there, it shows how many people we're reaching between next month to, I guess, June. And yeah, so this is kind of our area to be creative, have fun, reach the community, all different ages, all different areas. And I know I personally have a lot of fun with this part. We get to make little videos, edits, we'll share updates on what's happening at the launch and the lake and what's happening with the weather. So yeah, we get a lot of interactions on there, as well as people will reach out with questions or concerns. So that's great. And we're on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and yeah, you can also email us. So yeah, like I said, it was a really successful year. And I know it's hard when maybe not all of you got to go out to the lake. So I just wanted to share some of our achievements. So yeah, when I went into the schools, I reached over 300 students just in under a week. So that's always a plus, getting safety information out there to young students. And yeah, we reached over 10,000 people on our social media. We spent over 200 hours on water, marked 16 deadheads. We tracked over 800 boats using the launch. And that's just the boats that we helped. And then, yeah, we had over 900 in-person interactions. And then we attended to 5 boats in need of assistance, which is great. So every year when we do this year-end presentation, we like to quickly share some feedback. Most of it has been good. We did a survey this year that Michael is going to talk about. And on there, we had a lot of people reach out and say that they think our program's an asset on the lake, makes it less, our job makes their life less stressful on the lake. And then of course, there's always negative feedback as well. But same as most years, it's been about the condition of the boat launch and how it's a safety concern and mainly just an inconvenience for people.
So Melanie, if you just cut in for a minute, you're at your 10-minute mark, so I'll just get the board to I'll ask them for approval to extend that. Director Cote, Director Roberts.
Okay.
So a motion to extend the allotment time for another 5 minutes.
Great, thank you so much.
But I have to vote on it first. Anybody opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm almost done. Yeah, and then our other big concern from the public was the amount of property being damaged by boats, specifically wake boats coming too close to shore, creating wakes that are smashing into their docks. So that was a big concern this year, and we're working through how we can improve that. Yeah, so that's all I have. I just want to say thanks everyone for your time and your patience. And of course, I'd like to thank Michael for being a really good mentor to us and setting up lots of training for us. And yeah, I'm excited for next year and see where the program goes. Any questions, comments?
Director Cote is all ready to go.
Thank you. I'd just like to say thank you to yourself, Melina, and the crew. I think you did a great job this year, picking back up after time off with COVID break. And I usually hear comments from the community and I didn't hear anything negative, so it was all pleasure to have you working out in the community and looking out, doing the testing that you do and making sure that there's relatively good manners out there. So thank you very much. And putting together the program that you did with the educational portion and also the mission statement and going beyond what we had in place previously. So thank you very much and good luck to you in your schools. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Got Director Bodner.
Thank you. Boy, it seems like what, 4 or 5, you are very, very busy on that lake during the summer. How do you spread yourself so thin when the boat launch, I'm sure, is busy all the time, and yet to be on the water and be able to do all the things that you were able to do? How do you spread yourself so thin?
Yeah, it's definitely busy. We kind of just manage our time well, in the sense that we'll make sure we're at the boat launch during peak hours. So generally 10 to 12, and then back at the launch for 4 to 5, because that's when it's the most busy. And then between there is when we'll jump on the boat and we'll do the things we need to do there. So it's kind of just picking where we should be at what time.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's
Thank you.
a wonderful job out there. That's great.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you for, I don't see anybody else with their hand up there. So thank you for your presentation and thank you for your efforts on the lake and hopefully maybe we'll see you next year. So thanks very much. And so we're on to the next item, which is Ken Sanders, president of the Alberni Golf Club, regarding the 2023 property tax exemption request. Go ahead, Ken.
Thank you, John. Are you hearing me all right there? Are you hearing me at all, John?
Yes, you're loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. So first thing I'd like to do is thank the board for giving me the opportunity to give you a little bit of an update on what's happened at the golf club this past year. And as well, I'd like to thank the previous boards for granting us this tax exemption and recognizing the value that it brings to the golf club and the community in turn. As I've mentioned when I'm here before, the golf industry is a very competitive one, and it's not a business that survives very well very often. So we're quite happy that we've managed to come through difficult times over the years and still stay afloat. And of course, this tax exemption is one of those things that helps us do that. You know, the COVID pandemic created lots of challenges for us, and there were certainly a lot of difficulties that went with it. But it also created a bunch of opportunities for us, and that was that in the peak of COVID, we were kind of the only game around. You know, all other sporting events had been canceled, and the health department had allowed golf to go ahead, and consequently, we got a lot of new young folks interested in the game that had never played before, and we hope that that would carry on in the coming years. And we're happy to say that a lot of these younger people have continued to come back and play this year as well. We've got a lot of new members out of this, and it's actually been our salvation, because our membership is a very aging one, and we lose a lot of members every year to attrition because of age, health issues, and the fact that people are just getting older and older. So this has really worked out well. I don't know if we would have ever gotten quite as many new members so quickly. And the good news is that most of the new members are young. They're what we call intermediate members, that are sort of in the age of 30 to 45. And we hope that they will continue to stick with the game in the years to come. One of the things we think that has helped bring a lot of these young people to the club is that we have had such a good junior program over the years, and we've had such a good involvement with the high school and the other schools, where we have the kids can come to from their school in their PE classes and so on, and use our facilities at no charge. And so it's the community working together and having success. So we're happy with the way the numbers are working out. We were able to get back to a number of our bigger functions this year. The biggest one being the annual charity classic. We had our 27th charity classic this year, and there was over $75,000 raised for local charities. So we're always happy to be part of that and support the community in that way. We also had several tournaments that are recognized throughout the province, and we had lots of participants from all around BC and bringing income into the community and keeping us successful. We're always on a limited budget. Finances are always tight, and we're always trying to improve our course and our infrastructure because of the competitive nature of the industry. If you start to not be a very good place to be, then pretty soon you're not getting very many out of town people. And we're quite happy to say that we've managed to grow the business in the last 3 or 4 years, and we are now getting many more green fee players from around the island, and they come back on a very steady basis. So that's a success that we're proud of. We also are trying to keep our golf course infrastructure in place, and this year we are in the process of building another maintenance shed. We've wanted to build this shed for over 20 years, as far as I can remember. We've never been in a position to be able to do so. But this year we're doing it pretty much entirely with volunteer labor, volunteers that are members at the golf club. And this will be a real nice asset to the golf club moving forward and keeping our machinery inside so that it'll last longer. So we still do not have a manager. The club is being run entirely by volunteers. We've been successful at doing it this way for a number of years now. And it's a good thing. It's working out because we can't afford a manager. So we'll continue to run this way. But we would just again reiterate that the support of the regional district in granting this tax exemption is critical to our ability to provide the asset to the community that we do. I would like to thank you for your support in the past and hope that you'll see both the need that exists for this exemption and the value it provides. It would be devastating if we were to lose this support, and we hope you will continue to recognize the validity of our request. I'd like to thank you, and I would certainly answer any questions if you have any.
Okay, any questions? Ken? I'd like to thank you for your volunteer efforts throughout the years. I mean, I don't know how many years you've actually been on that board, but it's as long as I can remember. So it takes a lot of organization and patience and foresight to do what you've been doing. So thank you very much for that. And so unless anybody else has got anything, nope, we're good. Appreciate it.
Okay, thanks very much for that, John, and thank you again for letting me be here.
Okay, now we have Corey Brent, General Manager of Long Beach Golf Course, regarding the 2023 property tax exemption on the West Coast.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I don't see him online today, but I will just point to his letter that was included with the delegation section.
Great. Well, we got that, so we'll carry on. So the next delegation, I'm going to ask the board for an extension of time. It's a larger presentation, and so we need to extend the time to 15 minutes from 10 minutes. So I give somebody to move that. Director Roberts, Secondary Director Cote, and all in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay, carried. So we have Colin Kuzman, Land Use Forester, and Molly Hudson, Director of Sustainability, Mosaic Forest Management, regarding updates on local topics of interest, Big Coast Carbon Project, public access on campgrounds, and watershed management, drinking water protection. So are you going to be here for like a week going through all this stuff?
That does set the expectations very high, doesn't it? Thank you for that extension, and we will try to keep it brief, but nice to have a little buffer there. So thank you for that, and thank you all for having us here today. As Colin gets us set up here, I'll just introduce myself. My name is Molly Hudson. I'm the Director of Sustainability at Mosaic Forest Management, and I'm joined by my colleague Colin. We just wanted to share some updates with you today and provide the opportunity for a bit of dialogue. You may have heard from Mosaic Forest Management before, but if you haven't, I'll just run through a quick reminder. I'll do it this way. A quick reminder on who Mosaic is. So we were formed in 2019 when our two predecessor companies, Timber West and Island Timberlands, came together under common management. We are now Canada's largest private timberland producer, and we also operate on Crown forest licenses in and around Campbell River and the North Island. We have about 2,000 folks employed in our operations, and our production is about half created by a fully unionized workforce. We, in the Port Alberni region, support about $31 million a year in supply chain contributions. That's from a study done in 2019, which also showed that the forest sector in Port Alberni is about $57 million a year in contributions through the supply chain. We're really proud of our significant investment in technology and innovation. We're a leader in BC's Digital Technology Supercluster program, which is taking innovative technology approaches to safety, to production, to efficiency, everything from satellite-linked machines in the field to changing the way we track our log trucks and our productivity of our haul routes. I'd just like to highlight on the right there, you'll see our logo for our Progressive Aboriginal Relations Certification. This is granted by the Canadian Council for Aboriginal Business, and it really is a program that solidifies and provides structure for our commitment to reconciliation with First Nations peoples and Indigenous communities. And we are the first forest company in BC to be certified to the silver level. That's something we're really proud of. And we're really committed to long-lasting, durable relations with our First Nations partners going forward. A couple of other highlights. We've been working on the BC coast for over 100 years, and with our combination of private and public timberlands, we have a reliable fiber supply. You saw that we supply our logs to over 50 mills in British Columbia, as well as our international customers in America and throughout Asia. We are owned, as I mentioned, by two public sector pension funds, the BC Public Employees Pension Fund and the Canadian Public Employees Pension Fund, so 100% Canadian owned. And we have great alignment with pension fund owners because foresters think in very long time horizons, and so do pension fund managers. So really a commitment to a long-term, sustainable, productive land base so that those pensioners can be supported by our business far into the future. And I just like to always take this opportunity to remind everyone that all of our logs are offered to local mills prior to that export. So we're making sure that BC's mills are supplied with logs before we export to those international customers. A couple of achievements from the last year that I'd like to highlight. We were recognized as one of BC's top employers, so we're really proud of that, and we think that reflects the new Mosaic brand and how we've been working really hard to broaden our approach and our commitment to bringing new folks into the forest sector and providing a really welcoming place to work. And that part of that is our comprehensive diversity, equity, and inclusion strategy. So really, breaking down that box of traditional forestry thinking and welcoming new folks into our industry. Last year, we donated over $500,000 to community organizations across the coast. Some of those are very big contributions, like to the Pacific Salmon Foundation, which supports a lot of projects here in the ACRD. And some of them are very small, like, to the food banks every year and to community school programs and food programs. So some of those are by application, and you can go to our website, to our sponsorship and donations page, request support from us, or we have these long-lasting partnerships with big organizations. We also invested over $125,000 last year in First Nations scholarships, and those are recurring scholarships. We really want to broaden the opportunities for Indigenous folks to join our sector, share their perspectives with us, and have us learn from them. The one project I'd really like to highlight today, because I think it's really exciting, is our Big Coast Forest Climate Initiative. This is a carbon crediting program based on our private timberlands that is selling carbon offset credits into the voluntary carbon market. There's a website there at the bottom, but I'm going to give you a bit of the highlights. So with this initiative, we are committing for 25 years to take 40,000 hectares of our mature and old forests and pull them out of our harvest queue. So these are areas that we could have harvested, would have harvested, but we've now designated as carbon reserves. And so through that choice to not harvest them, that generates a carbon credit, and that credit can be sold on the voluntary market to willing buyers. And we focus this project on mature and old forest for a few reasons. There are significant co-benefits to setting these areas of mature and old forest aside. So beside the kind of financial component where our company will sell credits for financial gain, we also see these co-benefits through wildlife habitat retention, protection in key community watersheds, management of socially sensitive harvest areas. So we really think a win-win for the communities we work in and for our company. We do reach 5 UN Sustainable Development Goals, so an important part in our contribution to UN's Sustainable Development Planning. And we have 2 important project extension partners, the Indigenous Protected and Conserved Areas Center and the Pacific Salmon Foundation. So those 2 organizations will receive revenue from our project to support their work. And in particular, the IPCA Center will be helping us talk to First Nations communities about what these lands should become after the 25-year project length. So we've got a quarter of a century to work on these questions with all of the Indigenous communities whose territories fall within this project area, and the IPCA Innovation Center is going to help us do that. And I think with that, I'm going to turn it to Colin.
Thanks, Molly, and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having us here today. So just wanted to talk about Mosaic campgrounds. We have 14 campgrounds total. The latest was the new campground with 27 sites at the Port Alberni Hump. Really exciting project. I've been with Mosaic for 2 years and was asked to design it and oversee the construction. And we work closely with the Hupichiseth First Nation. So really nice that they provided us with the name for the site. We will be constructing a cultural kiosk to share part of their story at the site. Before we started construction, we're fortunate enough to have Ron Hamilton, who's a well-known Hupichiseth elder, bless the site and be involved. So really nice involvement there. And Rod Sayers is one of the carvers, local carvers that will be carving an old growth cedar for posts for the kiosk. So really nice opportunity just to have the area used, really focusing on family use and, eliminating some of the illegal activities that happened at that site that created some concerns for us around illegal dumping and illegal fires and parties and that kind of thing. So, just mention the other area that we have close to here is the McTush campground as well. And all our 14 campgrounds are run not for profit. So just take a minute to talk about community access. So we have a lot of different opportunities for community access on private managed forest lands, and I'll just mention the Ash Pilot. So we've really been working collaboratively with a number of different groups and parties, including the ACRD, the Ministry of Forests, Rec Sites and Trails in BC. So that's been in the works for a few years, and really it's opening up the Ash main line for 24/7 public access. while we're having active operations in that area as well. So we really wanted to see how this worked around safety, our industrial activities, the public being there, and the culture around safety, and seeing how things happened. Of course, we're near the end of the summer here. We're still waiting for some rain. Unfortunately, we did see some illegal activities this summer. So I'm sure folks are aware there was a wildfire in the area off the Ash Main. It started from illegal activities. So someone was in an area that wasn't approved for access, and the fire was discovered on the Sunday afternoon, and by Sunday evening, we had resources and crews in that area. It started with rifle target practice, and really fortunate that it got called in. We had the resources and the crews on that site so that it didn't spread further than 7 hectares. So again, just part of the pilot and really understanding what the risks are for our land base and for communities in the area. We also provide access to the Sprout Water Sports Park on Sprout Lake. So the photo on the lower left is just of that site, and that's been a really beneficial piece for Sprout Lake, and having families enjoy that area and have access to the lake and enjoy water sports. We also provide access to the Alberni Motocross group. Access opportunities are provided through the Alberni Inlet Trail, so we work collaboratively with the ACRD on that. Some of you might have seen recent media releases about the ATV agreements that we've signed throughout Vancouver Island, including in the Alberni Valley. And then we also provide access for the Black Powder Range group. So they have a lot of different family events and things happening through the year. So just talk about Hole in the Wall for a second. This is a really challenging site. I took this photo using a drone about 6 or 7 months ago, and I think it really just shows how challenging it is around safety, and that it's really critical that safety gets managed in this area. Mosaic is engaged in a coordinated working group through the ACRD, and a number of groups are involved with that. So we're happy to collaborate and try to figure out a solution to this challenging scenario. Really the challenge started with brochures being handed out for this area, and ended up being promoted on social media, and a number of people parking in areas that really aren't safe to park in. So at the last meeting we had, the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure had a number of action items to deal with. So again, it's a really challenging scenario. I think there are a few different opportunities with an easement that exists adjacent to the highway itself near the cemetery. But over time, I'm sure those details and opportunities to solve the problem will get flushed out. So with that, again, just wanted to thank everyone for their time. And if there are any questions, we'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.
1 minute and 57 seconds left. So I'm sure there's tons of questions. So who's got their hand up first? Oh, Cheryl, go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair, thank you, Molly and Colin. Really good presentation. It warms my heart to see Mosaic contributing so much to the recreation sites, concerns over the carbon initiative, and also I'm on the board of the Central West Coast Forest Society, which is now called Redfish, and the local enhancement projects that are going on out there. All of that contributes to our recreation and commercial fisheries programs for communities and the residents. As you can see, out in when the fish are in, the boats are out, and it's all really, really helpful. All the initiatives around that are really appreciated, and contributions as well. So great great programs that you're involved in. And I also appreciate the fact that all your logs are offered to local mills first, which again is really a tremendous initiative as opposed to seeing them all loaded on board ships and going elsewhere. So I do appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you for your comments.
Director Cote.
Thank you.
Dr. Barnes.
Thank you for coming to the board and sharing with us what you've been up to, because it's important that people know what you're giving back to the community. I'd like to say thank you for working with Sprout Lake community on the Holy Cow Trail. I know it's not easy in this interface with industry and residents, especially in a recreational area. But thank you for taking the initiative to work with the community on that trail. And I know that we've had conversations about working on identifying areas at Sprout Lake and probably elsewhere that are of importance to the community going forward. I'd like to say thank you for the access. It's important for healthy lifestyles to be people to be able to get out and enjoy the wilderness. I know there's many trails that go through your property that you allow people to use. So thank you for that. Like the campsite, I think it's wonderful. I did the tour. I was there for the opening. Wonderful working with the First Nations in our area at Tush. Yeah, just thank you for being open and being able to work with my community, taking tours, people on tours, proposed cut blocks, and working with the community. Thank you.
Thanks, Director Cote. And I'd just like to add that we're happy to have started a relationship with the Sprout Lake Woodland Society now. And so hope to use that group and elected officials as one of our ways of communicating with that community. So thanks for that.
So Director Coville and Director Bodner, and I'm surprised I don't have Director Shannon with the drinking water thing. So Director Coville, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair McNabb. Couple of questions and maybe just a little history here. And I had the luxury of having this presentation through the city. Prior to 2004, we had unfeathered access to all our backcountry, and you didn't have to belong to some sort of club. As a kid, I used to go out to Bainbridge Lake. As a young father, I took my son to Cop Lake, Mary Lake, Father and Son Lake, Labor Day Lake, and I didn't have to worry about any gates. So we're going back to the future ever so slowly. And I wish we could move a little bit quicker. I can't understand how this is a 2-year project on the Ash River Main when they developed the vaccine for COVID in less than a year, but maybe it's more complicated. I don't know. And of course, prior to 2004, hundreds of thousands of cubic meters, which Mosaic logs today, contributed to the Alberni Valley and the mills that we had back in those days. I guess we can't unring the bell, but I think Mosaic could do better. My questions are, I know in Island Timberlands days, if there was rainfall, extreme rainfall, I think it was 55 millimeters in a 24-hour period, they would shut down hauling on Cameron Main to prevent any silt from going into the Bainbridge Lake. Does that still happen to today?
So we continue to have detailed and site-specific shutdown guidelines for sure. I don't know offhand the requirements for Cameron Main, but absolutely hauling in wet conditions is something that we monitor closely in drinking watersheds. And you'll note as you drive along that road that we have a number of protections in place to ensure that sediment is not reaching the city's water source there. So yes, hopefully that answers your question.
Well, would it be possible to get that rainfall criteria?
Yep, we can look into the specifics for Cameron Lake for sure, or for Cameron Lake.
And there was a lot of discussion about logs being offered to mills prior to being exported. And I asked in your previous presentation, what was the balance? And I was told about 50% was export and 50% was domestic. If in fact that's true, October 3rd will be the 23rd log ship coming into the valley. And I believe those ships take approximately 30,000 cubic meters. So that's going to be in excess of 600,000 meters if it's all mosaic. And I suspect the vast majority would be. Why? And Alberta Pacific Division is going to be shut down soon for the rest of the year. Merry Christmas. The other mills in town are working on a curtailed basis. Is there any discussion whatsoever about some of that wood being manufactured locally? I realize that there's, the right log for the right mill, but certainly there's got to be some wood that gets exported, could be harvested or could be manufactured locally. Is there any discussion that you two know of?
Sure, we have relationships with all of the local mills and we do sell wood locally here. We are required under government rules to advertise every log that you see on a ship. So every log that's on a ship going to a non-BC destination has gone through the surplus test, and those sales have not been bought by a local log buyer. So certainly those ships are not entirely ours. And there is the right log for the right home. For example, we can't sell our Douglas fir chips, which is our primary species here, to local chip buyers. So, it is a complex ecosystem of log movement on the coast, but I can guarantee you that we do not sell logs externally if a local mill would like to buy them from us. And that is provincially and federally controlled.
Okay, well, I'll leave it at that. I could talk all day about the private lands being removed from the TFL and all the rest of it, but I'll leave the floor for other questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ron. Always good to have your wisdom behind us. And Director Bodnar.
Thank you. I want to thank Molly and Colin for that report. It's always nice to be able to hear what's going on there in the forestry. And Colin, even though I'm not running next year, I hope that you continue to keep the hole in the wall in mind, because it's certainly not going to improve by itself. And I appreciate all the work that you're doing towards that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for those comments. Really appreciate those.
Great. Anybody else? Oh, Director Cote, go ahead.
Thank you. I forgot about the firewood permits that we've collaborated with over the years. I do want to say that I get a lot of comments back from the community saying thank you for that, and it doesn't always get trickled down.
Great.
Just wanted to remark that.
Thanks, Director. Appreciate it.
Okay, anybody else? Oh, Director Shannon, there you are. Go ahead.
Thank you. I feel like I'm waving and nobody sees it, but that's okay. I just want to say thank you to Colin and Molly for presenting today. I appreciate the updates. And I just had a question Molly, we've had many conversations about access, and I appreciate that we're moving forward with getting more access for the public. My question is, and I know there's lots of workings behind the scenes with it. And I've talked to you about this before, but I'm just wondering if there's any possibilities or room for conversation. Like this time of year when we're getting more rain and we're getting into the fall, it's also hunting season, and the time when the gates are opened and closed is not necessarily conducive to being out there at dawn and dusk when it's like ideal time, or if you're out kind of in the back end and you've got to race back to be at the gate at a certain time. If there's any way, as we're working through all this access, if that can be taken into consideration to try and expedite something like that for the local hunters who are looking for that way of putting food on the table.
Yeah,
Thank you.
great question, Director Shannon. Thank you. And, we're in a tough position this year in particular with fire conditions as they are and hunting season overlapping with that. We're usually able to be more open about our access at this stage, but the unfortunate fact is we're still fighting a number of fires on our land base, and with more starting even just yesterday. So we're not out of the woods, so to speak, on fire danger yet. And we I think when we first had this conversation, we did manage to expand the hours a little bit, but always understanding that hunters have broader hours than we expected in some ways. So one of the ways that we're hoping to address this going forward is by having gates that we can control by satellite link and have them open or unlock automatically at a designated time. So we're piloting that right now. So that would mean early in the morning, there would be a sign on the gate and said, this gate is going to unlock automatically at 5 a.m., swing it open. And so that's something we're piloting now. One of our constraints is always how do we manage the gates with people power? And this will free up some of that. So we're hopeful that the hunters will appreciate that, in particular in the early mornings. And we're hopeful that we're going to get a little bit more rain than we're seeing today, and we can provide some more access for this hunting season. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? I'd like to thank you for your communication and for your efforts within our community. And I too would like to sort of go along with Director Corbeil with finding ways to make sure that log supply gets to our mills. I mean, I understand that it's an open market and the world pays more for logs than we might want to pay in Port Alberni, but we've got to find a balance that keeps people working and that benefits our community in a broader way. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And thanks for sharing this with us.
Thank you. Appreciate your time today.
Good.
Mr. Chair, we have Corey Brent and Derek Gilbert from the Long Beach Golf Club. They were having technical difficulties, but they've been resolved, so they're ready to present if the board is willing to hear them.
Okay, well, you're not alone with technical difficulties, I can tell you that. So we have Corey Brent, General Manager of the Long Beach Golf Club golf course, and regarding the 2023 property tax exemption request. So go ahead, Corey, or whoever's going.
Hi there. Can you hear me, you guys?
I sure can.
Oh, perfect. I appreciate it. I'm sorry about that. We thought we could do it through phone call, but obviously my one Zoom meeting a year doesn't allow me to know those things. First off, just a little bit about me. I've been a part of this property for over 15 years now, working closely with the board of directors and Mark Fortune over at the airport. We've been able to grow this property substantially with creating some areas for some staff to live and stay and work, which has always been a struggle in this area. We've also created some new tournaments that allow us to fundraise for some things that are very important to us in this area and around the island. That tax exemption does allow us to donate much more to these fundraising events, and at the same time, that tax exemption allows us to give some more upkeep and upgrades to the property that is quite old out here. Recently, we've had to put in a new septic system that was quite expensive, new washrooms, new showers for our campground. Unfortunately, this year, we also had a major lightning strike on property that took out quite a few things on property, upwards of $20,000. So we've had to pull together and allow some extra funds from the tax exemption to deal with that. At the same time, I've brought along basically the guy I work closest with here, Derek Gilbert. He's our president. And I'd also like to hand it over to him just to go over a few things as well, just regarding us and what we do here.
Hi there. As he said, my name is Derek Gilbert. I've been around Tofino for about 25 years and been on the board here. I'm the sort of facto president for, say, the past 5 or so. Like I say, with the biggest thing we've done in the past was hire Corey as the manager for the property. Not to take up too much of your time, Corey and I wrote the letter to you guys showing what the golf course has done for a lot of foundations and stuff in and around Tofino. And again, this year we've gone off pretty much without a hitch, trying to give back everything we can. And that the multiplex one, we're now with the event we had last weekend, we're probably upwards of $140,000, maybe $150,000 towards that dream of having another recreational facility out on the coast here for both communities and all of the native communities around here. You can see also we'd like to give back to all across the island, not just in our own area, because we feel that golf, especially on the island, is a real island sport. With the tax exemption, it really allows us to reinvest as well into our own property. Buying some, well, used equipment, new equipment is still out of reach, but revamping what we have here, maintaining the property. I'm not sure if any of you guys have actually played the course out here, but we get a lot of kudos for what we do on an absolute shoestring budget. We only have 2 grounds crew there, and then we have some people that run the campground as well. With that being said, is there any questions for Corey and I?
Okay, anybody from the board have a question? Tom, is that you trying to make contact?
No, I didn't have a question. I just wanted to thank Corey and Derek for their presentation today and appreciate them coming out and giving us the report for the tax exemption today. It was much appreciated.
Great. I don't see any other questions. I'd like to thank you for making the effort to get your technical problem solved and be with us. So,
Thank you for bearing with us.
Yeah, thank you very much. And we look forward to hearing your decision.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so we don't have any correspondence for action, but we've got a boatload of correspondence for information. Does anybody want to pull anything out of that? I see staff has been very successful with a couple of grants in there. I'd like to thank them for their continued efforts in that quest. That certainly saves it on the tax side of things. So staff got anything on that? Don't see any hands waving in the air. So we need a motion to receive the correspondence for information. Director Roberts and Director Cote and all in favor? Anybody opposed? Carried. So requests for decisions. So first of all, we have the Alberni Valley Golf Course, the Golf Club, and the Long Beach Recreation Cooperative Tax Exemption.
Mr. Chair, that would be me today. So I present for you a bylaw for adoption or for consideration of adoption for both the Long Beach Airport or Long Beach Recreation Cooperative and the Alberni Valley Golf Club. So we've done this for a number of years, and in the report I've just outlined what the estimated tax savings would be for them for 2022, just to give the directors an idea, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
So any questions on that? Director Cote, is that a question or a motion?
Motion.
Okay, go ahead.
A motion that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors give first reading to bylaw cited as 2023 tax exemption bylaw number F1156.
And seconder is Director Roberts. Anybody speaking on this? Okay, oops, Director Shannon. You need your little button there. We got too many people.
Yeah. I do have a question. So we have like the section 391 of the Local Government Act allows tax exemptions for the following year for organizations that provide public athletic or recreation purposes. I just have a question, like, I don't have a problem with this. Is there any other sports or public properties I'm assuming this is just for the electoral areas, or if there was sports within the city, could they apply to this if they weren't in the city? Just if there was opportunities for others, or if we have, and if there is if there's some kind of processes we should be looking at instead of doing this year by year. Just a question.
So 2 parts of that. We have to do it year by year unless we want to go to a consent or an assent process through referendum. And even then you can only go up to 9 years. It is open for anyone to apply, but they have to be the property tax owner of the property. So lots of times associations are renting from others, and these are the only ones that have ever made inquiry. I believe the city has a couple of programs and do exempt numerous places for things similar to this. But yeah, they're the only ones that have ever approached the regional district regarding this program.
And I can tell you that having been on city council, that there's a host of them that are considered annually for exemption churches and not-for-profits around the community. So anybody else on this? The motion on the floor? All in favor? Anybody opposed? Carried. Go ahead.
I'll give a second reading.
Thank you. And seconder, Director Roberts, and all in favor? Anybody opposed? Carried.
Give third reading.
Seconded. Director Roberts, and anything on it? All in favor? Carried. And adoption, Director Roberts.
That the Alberni Clyde Region District Board of Directors adopt bylaw cited as 2023 tax exemption bylaw number F1156.
And seconder? I'll go with Director Bodner. She's lonely up there. And anything further on that? All in favor? Carried. Moving along, Sproat Lake Marine Patrol grant application. Who's going to take this? Michael, are you with us?
Hello, Mr. Chair.
There you are.
So continuing on with the Sprout Lake Marine Patrol program, we've received funding in the past through Transport Canada to help fund this program. Our last year of the current agreement was this past summer. So there's opening again for reapplication for applying for funding. This is through the Transport Canada Boat Safety Program, and eligible costs are up to 75%. ACRD would be responsible for the remaining 25% of the costs. We're proposing an increase here to accommodate staff salary increases that's projected over the term of the agreement, which our last one was 3 years. And that's what we'd be applying for again. So if we were successful with this grant, we maintain our established level of service. If we were unsuccessful, we'd need to reevaluate the service levels and potentially funding for the program.
Great. Director Cote.
Thank you. So this is a wonderful program that is a federal grant and longtime Marine Patrol participant in the past from the past is Ian Arkley, who brought our attention to this grant quite a few years ago, and we applied and we continue to apply and continue to get this funding. So very much thankful that they continue to allow us to apply for it. There's not that much uptake across Canada, so I expect that we'll continue to receive this funding. And there's no more comments. I'd like to make a motion.
Already?
Okay, make the motion that the Alberni Claycott Regional District Board of Directors support the application for grant funding with the Transport Canada Boating Safety Contribution Program to support the Sproat Lake Marine Patrol's operations for a 3-year term.
Seconder, Dr. Roberts. I'd just like to say it. I think a key part of this program is the efforts that staff make in compiling the reports. I think when these reports that are so well done go across the desks in Ottawa or wherever else are considered, it probably looks a lot better than maybe some of the other ones that might hit it. So they do a good job, and the participants do a function that the community needs. So anything else on the motion? All in favor? Anybody opposed? Carried. Carrying along, UBCM grant application for local government program services asset management planning program. So who's going to take this?
Hi, Mr. Chair. That will be me, Amy, the Asset Management Coordinator. So this grant, we're applying to get a condition and risk assessment of our water systems so that we can better plan for infrastructure needs in the future. It is part of our asset management development, and it will assist in our overall plan to get our asset management onto the GIS system.
Well, I can tell you the Beaver Creek water system is always in need of upkeep and care. So it's certainly a great thing for Beaver Creek. So I would make the motion that the Alberni Claycock Regional District Board of Directors support an application for $25,000 to the UVCM LGPS Asset Management Planning Program for the condition and risk assessment on the water systems in the regional district. And the seconder, Director Roberts. Got everybody seconding. So anybody else on this? Okay, and on the motion, all in favor? Anybody opposed? Great, we're on.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. And in the BC Municipalities Community Resilience Investment Program Fire Smart Grant. Randy, there he is.
Thank you, Director McNabb or Chair McNabb. So yes, we're very pleased to request permission to apply for the 2023 grant process and to invite our neighboring areas to continue to jointly apply with us. We've had great success this year in inviting or in engaging residents from all of the joint applicants areas, and we'd like to build on that.
Great. Well, I attended the seminar at UBCM with regards to the Lytton fires and other fires, and I can tell you that if fire smarting had taken place in many of those locations, that they could have drastically reduced the impact of wildfires. So it's important in our community. We're so surrounded. All of our areas are so surrounded by forest that canopy fires can occur at any point, and we need to do everything we can to see that our communities and our housing areas are as safe as they possibly can be. So, yes, Director Roberts.
I'd like to make that motion that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors apply to the Union of BC Municipalities Community Resiliency Investment Program Fire Smart Grant with interested grant applicants.
And further?
And further, well, that was it, I believe, in total.
Is it? Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Alrighty, seconder, Director Cote, I'm speaking.
Yes, thank you. I have had a couple of Sprout Lake residents that actually took up on this grant, and they were quite impressed with the report that they got back and the results. So it's a good, worthwhile program. Thanks.
Okay, on the motion, anything else? All in favor? Anybody opposed? Carried. So did we do this? Did we do that second part? Oh, okay. Okay, go ahead, Randy.
Thank you, Chair. So now we're on item number E, the Fire Smart Grant to award critical infrastructure mitigation activities. So the region undertook assessments of critical infrastructure in 2021, where they reviewed a number of our assets, water treatment plants, water reservoirs, that type of thing. And we have five locations that are going to be mitigated under this work, 3 in Bamfield and 2 in Beaver Creek.
Okay, Director Roberts.
Yeah, thank you for that. I don't know if Director Beckett wants to step into this, but I'm happy to support. Go ahead, Director Beckett.
Sorry, I certainly support it. Should we, let me just go to the question for Randy. What are the 3 locations in Bamfield, Randy, please?
We're completing mitigation work on and around the 2 fire halls, so the East Fire Hall and the West Fire Hall. and then the Bamfield Water Treatment Plant on Grappler Road.
Thank you very much for that explanation.
You were thinking it was your house, right? No. Okay.
No, but I'm glad we.
So somebody want to make that motion? Director Roberts?
Sure, I'll make that recommendation that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors award the Fire Smart Critical Infrastructure Mitigation Activities Contract to Wildfire Property Protection Limited in the amount of $55,950, excluding GST, over a 2-month period commencing October 1st, 2022. And further, that the ACRD Board of Directors authorize the CAO to negotiate and execute the ACRD Fire Smart Critical Infrastructure Mitigation Activities Contract on behalf of the regional district.
And seconded by Director Beckett. Anything else on this? Director Beckett. So
Thank you again, Mr.
Oh,
Thank
go
you
ahead.
again. Thank you again, Mr. Chair. Randy, when you're doing the work around the fire halls, would it be possible to have appropriate signage to let the community know what we're doing around the fire halls as a message that they may want to consider that, with respect to their own properties?
Thank you, Director Beckett, through the chair to you. I'm sure that we can arrange some appropriate signage to advise residents that the work being completed is part of the Fire Smart grant for the community.
Great. Nobody else? Got a motion on the floor. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Carried. So that wasn't two-part, that was all one. Okay. Okay, next we have the UBCM grant application for Community Emergency Preparedness Fund, Volunteer and Composite Fire Department Equipment and Training. And Charlie, are you there? He says he's there.
I am here, but I expected Amy to speak on that again. I'll just say that this equipment that both the fire departments are looking for is tied to the funding and would not be otherwise sought. So we're there. And I'll also add that both Bamfield and Cherry Creek have been advised of this funding opportunity, and we'll have stuff put forward in the very near future.
Director Gote?
Thank you. I would make the recommendation that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors support the application for $30,000 in funding from the UBCM Volunteer and Composite Fire Department's Equipment and Training Grant opportunity for wildfire equipment and trailer for the Sprout Lake Volunteer Fire Department, and direct staff to provide overall grant management for the project if successful.
Seconder? Director Roberts. So anything else on this? Alrighty, all in favor? Anybody opposed? Carry. Good. Somebody? Yeah, there's a second one. Not yet ready. Sure.
Okay, I would move that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors support the application for $30,000 in funding from the UBCM Volunteer Composite Fire Department's Equipment and Training Grant opportunity for the purchase of a self-contained breathing apparatus, SCBA, decontaminator for the Beaver Creek Volunteer Fire Department, and direct staff to provide all overall grant management for the project if successful.
And seconded by Director Roberts. All righty, so anything else on this? Director Shannon.
Thanks. I have a question just on a comment Charlie made about that this is more than likely coming down for Bamfield and Cherry Creek as well. How does that work with if we're going to direct staff to provide overall grant management for the project in relation to Cherry Creek, or is that not going to be an issue? Just because they're, do you know what I mean?
Yes, I can speak to that. Lucas has been in touch with me. He is going to be writing his own grant and he intends on managing it himself. I've offered assistance in reviewing it before he submits and assisting with any budgetary needs he needs, understanding with that application, but it is Lucas's project and he will be handling that part of it.
Okay, thanks, Amy.
Okay. Go ahead, Director Roberts.
Just a question to Amy and also to Charlie. In both of these instances, is it not possible to have some of this equipment as a shared opportunity for local fire departments?
I can speak to that. Yes, there was opportunity for the equipment to be shared. And in fact, the equipment that Beaver Creek is looking at would be available for use by the other departments around the valley. And the equipment that Sprout Lake is just general forestry equipment that would be available for use around. But they could have pooled their money, but these items were small enough that they didn't think it was best to do it that way. Does that answer your question? That 30,000 was available to each department separately, and it could have been pooled for larger items, but neither one of them went that far.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that. The SCBA decontaminator is, I think, is something that should be made available to whether it's Cherry Creek or any of the other local fire departments. So as the coordinator, I would assume that you would oversee that. But
yes, and that is part of the application, is that it will be available for all the departments to use.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay, moving along. We have a fire day today. So we've got the Alberni Claycourt Regional District Fire Service Levels motion. So I'll let Charlie take that away, I think.
Okay, this is basically a housekeeping item in that this service level declaration by policy is mandated by the Office of the Fire Commissioner. There are no changes to the service levels being provided by the fire departments. These were already declared by addendums to the bylaw R1023 2012. And it's just making the policy as per the mandate of the Fire Commissioner's office.
So there was another seminar that I attended with regards to fire inspection of prevention inspection by regional governments, and as well as service levels and as well as equipment considerations. And I can tell you that the fire commissioner was kind of bombarded with requests for consideration that the downloading of the provincial government not be put on the regional governments, and capacity just didn't exist. So while they thought that they had made a decision and that that's just the direction they're going, I don't think that's what they thought when they left the room. So I guess that'll TBA. So on this motion, would somebody like to make this motion? Go ahead, Director Cote.
Seems to be my day today.
Yeah, it's usually mine.
Yeah. So I make a motion that the ACRD Board of Directors, as the authority having jurisdiction, set the service level to be provided by its fire departments, in which turn determines the minimum training competencies that must be met by those departments by adopting the Alberni Claycourt Regional District Fire Department Service Levels Policy.
Director Roberts is in a big hurry to sign it, seconded by Director Beckett. So obviously you must have something on your mind there, Director Roberts. Let's hear it.
Yeah, and I appreciate that through the chair. And you did attend those meetings at the UBCM. I just find it really difficult to comprehend that the province is downloading, because that appears to me to be exactly what's happening, that the Alberni Claycourt Regional District departments are setting the service levels. I just have real difficulty with that, and if that's the way it's going to go, that's fine. But it's going to create a lot more work for the regional district. And most of the training levels are set through the National Fire Protection Association. And everything that's going on now with the changes almost on a daily or weekly basis through the province. So yeah, if that's the case, then I guess that's the way we're going to have to go. But I think we need to look at it a little more closely. And I'm pretty sure that Charlie's aware of all this too. So thank you for that.
I think the battle coming forward is certainly the inspection portion of it, both assessment of fire scenes and building inspection, commercial building inspection, particularly within the regional district areas. So that, it is something that's going to have to have a strong voice in the future from the regional areas we were a test bed for the program that they put forward 4 years ago, I guess, and that test trial never got off the ground. We thought we would be better to be kind of guinea pigs and be able to prove either we could do it or we couldn't do it, and it just never went that way. So it'll be interesting to see how they actually attack that in the future. Go ahead.
Yeah, through the chair again, thank you. I find it interesting that the ACRD Board of Directors is going to be the authority having jurisdiction for fire prevention inspections and so on. Maybe Charlie can correct me on this. Is it not the local fire, or is it yourself, or the local fire chiefs in each area that should have the authority having jurisdiction, or are you that person overall for all the communities? Thank you.
I believe that the way that the bylaws are set up, that the authority having jurisdiction in the case of our fire departments is the board, and the board gives direction to them. This level of service is directly applies to whether they go interior, exterior, or full service departments. And nothing has changed from what we've had for the past since 2012. Prior to 2012, a fire department was a fire department, whether it was the city of Vancouver or Bamfield, the same requirements were mandated for everybody. So with the policy determination here, a community like Bamfield could say, no, we're only going to be exterior. That policy has to be set by the board.
And I understand that, but who is the authority having jurisdiction to do fire prevention inspections and or investigation?
At this point, it would fall on the board to have that, to direct the fire departments to do so.
Go ahead.
So this is part of the additional changes that we're seeing coming through that were mentioned in the service review, right? That there's more coming on the coattails of all this. And they've been talking about it for 10 years, and we're assuming that we'll see further changes. It's also why we're doing the outreach that we're doing with the departments, is that each one of our fire departments does fall under the regional district umbrella at this time and under this legislation. And so it's nice for the province to say, but for us, we have to build a relationship. Because the departments are quite independent for a long time, we don't want to disrupt that. We don't want to create, an unnecessary culture shift, but we do need to work together in a coordinated way, and that's the direction we're going in as a result of this.
Yeah, and I can tell you that the fire inspection portion of it was absolutely not received well by all of the people that were attending that particular part of the conference, and the fire commissioner was surrounded by individuals afterwards who, including me, who asked very pertinent questions about that whole program. I think you got the message, so we'll see. Director Beckett.
Thank you. With respect to the motion itself, while I would concur and agree that the downloading of fire investigations and fire inspections is extremely onerous and needs additional discussion, This motion is specifically on the level of firefighting services. And the positive side of this, it does give us some flexibility, each department, as Charlie alluded to identify whether it's interior or exterior. And if it's exterior, it's less onus on the department and community. And Charlie, correct me if I'm wrong. So again, I think that I am I'm supportive of this motion because it is specific to firefighting only. I think those other matters that we're discussing are extremely important, but are not part of this motion. I may stand to be corrected. Thank you.
Director Beckett, you are correct in that. This is strictly towards the firefighting level of service provided.
I'm just double checking where we're at with voting on this.
Yes.
Okay, so it's participants of the service that are voting, and we're finished with discussion. All in favor? And opposed? Carried. All right. BC Transit, 3-year expansion initiatives. So this was discussed at our electoral areas meeting. And so I'd like to carry that ball.
If I could start, and then I'll hand it over to Paulo afterwards. I just want to start by flagging that this is something that was also discussed with Minister Fleming during the UBCM. And we got the indication that the province does not have more money to put towards various aspects of expanding to the West Coast, for example. Whether or not that spreads into other areas, like expanding this service under the MOU, we do not know. But we will say that, if we don't sign the MOU, we will not find out. I think it's important to say that there is active outreach going on transit, which is why Eddie, who usually speaks to this, isn't here, is that he and I were registered to be part of the provincial outreach. Obviously, I'm here and Eddie is part of the provincial outreach. And we are setting a table to look at alternative approaches to West Coast transit. But there again, the recommendation of staff is that we continue to work with the province in good faith with a memorandum of understanding. That does not prevent us from looking at other alternatives should the province not fund aspects of this MOU. Paulo, is there anything that you would like to add?
Thank you, Daniel, and the group. I think you've covered everything off in there. We've covered everything regarding the expansion initiatives, the challenges with Coast Transit Service. Essentially, we do need the MOU in order to move forward. And just again, pinch hitting for Eddie here. There is the option near the end, or the consideration at the end under financial, that should the ACRD sign off on the MOU and decide at a later date not to pursue expansion, there's a risk that vehicle lease fees could be added to budget for a minimum of 1 year if they had already been procured. This is all tied to procurement, all that sort of thing, that process kicking off early next year and then forwarding into the following year. Other than that, that's about it.
Alrighty, anybody else on this? Somebody want to make a motion on that? Custom transit. Go ahead.
I'd just like to make a remark first. I asked for some information from BC Transit and got a reply this morning. So I'm happy to say that the AV custom ridership, 161 trips were provided for Squirrel Lake residents, and that every ride request was being provided. So that answers that question, which I'm happy to hear. So I make a recommendation that the Alberni-Quayport Regional District Board of Directors confirm the BC Transit 3-year expansion initiatives 2023 to 2024 through 2025 to 2026 for the Alberni Custom Transit System to sign the MOU letter with BC Transit dated August 23rd, 2022.
Seconder. Director Steer. Okay, on the motion, any discussion? Yep, Director Roberts.
Yeah, through the chair, yeah, I appreciate this, and I appreciate your comments, Daniel, with regards to this. But there's nothing in the foreseeable future for the West Coast. Is that correct?
Through the chair, that is correct. So the MOU, if the province comes forward with the funds, we need to be ready. And so we're equipped, our service bylaw is equipped to move forward with the proper taxation should we move forward. But under this MOU, all we're telling the province that we're ready for when they're ready. Minister Fleming, I think, made it quite clear that navigating the pandemic was quite expensive for transit across the province, and they're not about to make new expansion investments in 2023.
I appreciate that. I have a bit of a problem that we're collecting taxes for something that. Go ahead.
For clarity, we only collect what we need, so we're not collecting for implementing a West Coast transit. The only monies that we've collected so far under this service are simply for the prep. So we've collected a minimal amount to do the preparation, to do the background work for bus stops, whatnot, but we haven't collected the full amount, which we would collect if we were actually paying for our portion of the buses and drivers, just for clarity.
Okay, thank you for that. I appreciate it. I think I might end up starting my own bus company out there to get things on the route. Anyway, in jest, thank you.
Robert's collectible. I can see it. Alrighty, Director Cote.
Thank you. Is there any comments from the West Coast? Because I think they were counting on this new bus service to be starting next year. So.
Yeah.
I can chip in through the chair. This was fully talked about at UBCM and with conversations with our CAO. I think the path forward is being looked at, and those options, I believe staff are looking into, and we're hoping that we'll have some options presented to us that we'll be able to hopefully have some form of transit on the West Coast. If not, we will still be lobbying and putting our concerns forward consistently with the ministry and specifically BC Transit to ensure that that they know that we're still interested in having that service on the West Coast.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'd like to make sure that the Health Network has a report on this because that was one of their action tables. Thanks.
Okay, any further on this? All in favor? Anybody opposed? Carry. Just inform Director Roberts that you can't use a tilt trailer for custom transit. Alrighty, moving along. Jenny's not here. She's in windy Nova Scotia, so I know she'd be sort of all over this next thing. So the Alberni Valley landfill renaming, I guess, and that's Paula.
That would be me. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and everyone else. So the Alberni Valley and Banfield Services Committee reviewed the choices for renaming the Alberni Valley landfill. And just as a quick recap for those that were not there, we went through a process to decide, what we do for a contest, get some ideas on capturing everything functionally that has to do with that landfill. Because, essentially it's not landfilling anymore. It's doing everything under the sun, including recycling, processing of organics, a lot of waste diversion, environmental controls. Landfill is a whole new thing. So to accurately reflect that kind of thing, we put it out to folks at the Canadian Board's behest to look at see what the contest would look like. So in March, we developed an activity guide. We attached that in the appendix there that had a contest component. We didn't have a lot of uptake, had about 10 presentations that were requested in 2 classrooms, which were grade K1 and grade 5, with submitted as several landfill possible names. And then after further consideration, as we started digging into this more, we're working really hard to push the sort and go brand. And by that, I mean, we've marketed fairly well for the Alberni Valley landfill. It is very tied to whether you're talking pickup schedules, 3-stream over here, now 3-stream over in the West Coast, which is soon to start up, all of those pieces. And we're getting a lot of uptick on use of the app, lots of waste related questions and all that sort of thing. So the takeaway was, we put forth to the committee, what about actually naming it the Alberni Valley Sort and Go Center? And make it a little bit more unique in that way. So that keeps up the piece on the marketing, gets it more in the forefront of everybody's minds. And that was kind of the takeaway there. So committee made the recommendation to move forward with the Sort and Go Center, and that recommendation is sitting here before you for your consideration. Open to questions.
So there was one question that I had when we were doing this was copyright. So Sort and Go copyright infringement. Did we look at that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We did look at that. There's no capture on the Sort and Go Center. No one seems to have Sort and Go out of that. As far as the app is concerned, it is essentially, it is up for grabs. It is ours.
Great. Okay. Moving ahead there. We need a motion. So Director Beckett is all over this. He just wants to do this.
Sorry, Director Roberts. I would make the motion that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors endorse the proposed name change of the Alberni Valley landfill to the Alberni Valley Sort and Go Center as per the recommendation of the Alberni Valley and Banfield Services Committee.
Seconder, Director Roberts. Any other comment on this? All in favor? Anybody opposed? So is this going to be reflected in the West Coast landfill as well?
That will be thank you, Mr. Chair. That'll be a separate process. If things go well with this, then yeah, we'll look at doing something very similar to mimic exactly what we're doing over here on the Alberni Valley. That's our intent, but we got to get there first.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you. On to the next thing. Tipping fees at the Alberni Valley Sort and Go Center. Seeing we removed that already, I think we should make that change. Okay, so is that Paulo again? Okay.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. Just so I'm keeping track here, we're on the bylaw 1029 amendment of tipping fees in the Alberni Valley.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you, sir. So as you could see, we took the draft amendment of the tipping fee regulation to the Alberni Valley and Banfield Services Committee not too long ago for review. And rationale is sitting in here, but some key takeaways around, the piece around our fees. We're looking at increasing the base tipping fees, and for the benefit of the rest of the group, we'll get into this when we talk West Coast bylaw. But as we've seen increases in costs and all that sort of thing, we've also seen increases in tipping fees around the region. Comox and our neighbors over in the regional district of Nanaimo have recently upped their fees as well. So essentially, we're trying to keep things on par so as not to see, waste being input into essentially our valley, because it may be viewed as a cheaper option. And so looking at that, we kept our fees fairly consistent with what they're seeing on their side. So this, in brief, is an increase on the base tipping fee from 130 per ton to 140 per ton. Construction demolition waste is going up from 160 per ton to 175 per ton. If you glance briefly at the anticipated revenues, we took this based on the data that we took from the previous 5 years to get a fairly consistent average. You're looking at approximately just shy of $180,000 in revenue increase on a yearly basis. What else do we have for takeaway? And the last little piece there is installing a $5 minimum fee for all organics self-haul drop-off. Now, this one I'll just flag here because there was a lot of discussion on the topic of minimum fees for self-haul, not just organics, but garbage as well. A couple of the pieces behind that, for something for organics, we're looking at, base flat rates to process material that is still consistent with what we can read on the scale, much like we read on the other minimum fees that we have already in place in our bylaw. The other piece in there is in regards to having a little bit of consistency with what is involved with taking that material. It is going to lead into a separate discussion, which I do flag in there, that we're going to be bringing back a discussion to AVB at a future meeting to look at specifically minimum fees around bag waste, around even organics. We can open that up again, but for right now, it's to establish something in place here. So that was some of the discussion that was had. And so that is the piece on tipping fees. The additional section has to do with the city of Port Alberni. So we're happy to say that, through the review of the tipping fees, we're looking back at the numbers for 1 year, which we rolled out not too long ago here, just in early September. And thanks to a lot of the investment that the city put in play to take on 3Stream for well over 6,500 homes. Single family homes saw garbage drop by 45%. That strictly went over into the organics field and is actually being reprocessed into usable compost. It also saw just a slight uptick in recyclables as well, going from roughly 15 to 17% or so. So some major successes. When we took that into account, and again, this was visited with the committee, we looked at, the amount of investment is in place. We saw that, applying an additional increase in fees to the city at this time was not deemed as appropriate, where we see a balance between there's an organics tipping fee of $115 per ton versus garbage rate of 140 per ton. So ideally for a net zero impact kind of thing, we looked at reducing the recovery of transportation costs for taking recyclables, et cetera, by approximately $1,700 per month as recognition of the city's success in the program. That recommendation that you see at the bottom is specific to amending the current transition agreement that we have with the city of Port Alberni and the ACRD. That's about it. I've opened to questions.
Got a question from Director Cote.
Thank you. So I agree that we need to amend our tipping fee for by the per ton to keep us coordinated with other surrounding communities so that we don't end up collecting their garbage as well. I'm not in favor of the self-haul. I thought we had just had the conversation around possibly not having charge so that people would get used to doing the self-haul of the organics. And also the discussion around the 2-bag minimum of garbage, which a lot of people, I continually hear from the community that they're not happy with that. But when it's gone from a 2-bag drop off, a $2 bag, a bag drop off to $6 for a two bag minimum, when they still only have 1 bag, and now they're expected to pay $5 for organics. That's a huge hit to the rural areas. And also, I'm not in favor of subsidizing the city. Great that they've done well, but I'm not in favor of lowering their cost for garbage either. So thanks.
Anybody else? So we have some motions in front of us. Somebody like to move the first one? I will move it just to be there. I've moved that the Alberni Claycourt Regional District Board of Directors give first reading to bylaw R 1029-5 Alberni Valley Tipping Fee and Regulation Amendment 2022. The seconder is Director Beckett. Any of these further discussion on that? Yes, Director Cote.
Thank you. So as I've said, I agree with the amended tipping fee, but the other parts, could we separate that out then?
Yeah. I don't think so.
be hard to separate out. It's not a separate resolution. Right, it's through the chair, it would, I think rather than separating it out, it would have to be an amendment to the resolution. Because it's presented as a singular, they're not two resolutions that are presented right.
Could I make an amendment then?
You can move it.
I would move an amendment to separate the solid waste amended tipping fee from 130 a ton to 140 a ton, $12 minimum to $15 minimum, and not the rest.
So for clarity, you're moving that we separate the $5 fee from the rest of the alterations. So ultimately moving that there would be no minimum fee for the organics.
Can I comment?
Sure.
That was part of the conversation that we had at the Alberni Valley Banfield meeting, or was that the EA? At one of our previous meetings, that might be a good solution for us moving forward, so that people would get used to bringing in self-haul the organics, because it's new to our landfill. So,
well, part of the discussion at that was what was actually being brought in and the processing of that, as far as I remember. Paulo, do you remember how that discussion actually carried through?
I'll do my best to recollect, Mr. Chair. We obviously talked about the main fee piece there, but the bigger piece, I believe Director Jack alluded to this as well, was the push around specifically organics diversion. It started with the city piece. Then we went to we talked briefly at the committee level about the push in the rural electoral areas in the Alberni Valley that out of a survey were against doing any sort of curbside collection. That was the piece that I recall there, kind of thing. So really the biggest part that we got out of that conversation was that we have large scale organics diversion coming out of the city. There is some material coming from the rural areas, not a lot. A lot of people still do some of the stuff at home. Not remembering too many more takeaways from that talk, unfortunately.
Okay, we've got an amendment on the floor, but I don't know if we've got a seconder to the amendment. I don't think I saw one. Go ahead.
I just want to clarify though too, that this is an amendment to the bylaw that's in front of us. So we have an amendment to bylaw R1029-5. And at first reading, it's being amended. Yeah, the motion was just to amend.
Yeah.
So the motion has to be to including to at first reading. So we've got first reading on the floor, is my understanding. So this would be an amendment. Prior to voting on first reading, it would be an amendment to bylaw R1029-5.
Okay, so we don't have a seconder to the amendment at this point. So that's what I'm looking for. Either a seconder or no seconder. And the amendment is to strike the $5 minimum. Okay, going once, going twice. Okay, the amendment fails. And on the motion, we have a mover and a seconder on the motion itself, the original amendment. So, anything else on that? All in favor? And opposed? So we've got 2 opposed and that's carried. All right, continuing on. Second reading. Director Beckett is moving with gusto. No, you're commenting?
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Chair. I should have raised my hand or spoken up with respect to the past motion that just got passed, I was going to speak to that. It's fine because I voted in favor of it. But my comment is that one of the matters that Director Cote brings up on a fairly regular basis that may have some validity, it's not for me to say, but it's the 1 bag versus 2 bag fees. And my thought would be is that I think that needs to come to the board in the form of a motion, and perhaps that would be appropriate for next board meeting. But I think we need to address that. It's a reasonable comment from Director Cote, and I just think we need to deal with that at some point in time. So that was my comment. I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, I agree with you. I think that that is valid, and perhaps the notice motion or something that can be taken and put into discussion for our next meeting.
I would make that motion unless Director Cote wanted to.
Okay, so what we have is a notice motion that the 1 bag or the 2 bag limit be discussed at our next meeting. And do we need approval of that, right? Notice the motion, doesn't need an approval?
What's the motion we can decide?
Okay, all right, we're good to go on that. So we do have the second part of this reading. So somebody like to move that? Director Beckett, is that moving? Or
Yes,
waiting?
sir, it is.
Okay.
I move that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors give second reading to bylaw R1029-5 Alberni Valley Tipping Fee and Regulation Amendment 2022.
Seconder? Director Minions, and anything else on this? All in favor? Anybody opposed? Director Cote? Third reading. Director
Third
Beckett,
reading.
seconder. Director Minions. Any discussion? All in favor? Anybody opposed? Director Cote? And adoption.
So moved.
Seconder. Director Minions. And any discussion? All in favor? And opposed? Carried. And we have one further motion. And Director Beckett, would you like to read that motion?
Yes, sir. That the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors approve in principle amendment to the Memorandum of Understanding with the City of Port Alberni, CPA, for the 3-stream curbside collection program to reduce the recovery of transportation costs by $1,700 per month to recognize CPA's success in significantly reduce curbside garbage.
And seconded by Director Minions. Anybody like to speak to that? Director Cote.
Thank you. So it seems that costs are being downloaded to the rural areas. So, you know, the last motion is potentially raising our $2 garbage from 1 bag to $11 for 2 bags and organics now. So that's a big increase. And now this also with, you know, it seems like a subsidy to the city because of their, you know, it's wonderful that they're successful, but it seems like this is further download to the rural areas. Thanks.
And I'm sure Director Minion might have a counter to that. I personally see this as valid because of the composition of the material that we're taking to the Sort and Go Center. The composition is highly swung to the organic side, which is definitely a heck of a lot more acceptable in the stream than the garbage side. So that's why this adjustment is something that I would recognize. So we see the rural areas moving in that direction as well, then I would expect that there would be compensation for that as well. So Director Minions.
Thank you. No, I really just appreciate your comment you just made, Chair McNabb, and just want to say that I am very proud of the work that the city has done, but recognize that that work has been led by the regional district. And while we don't have the regional areas on board at this point, and I understand it's different and the challenges are different, I hope that we'll be able to get there, because I think that the results of what's happened over the past year are incredible. They have exceeded my expectations. And at the end of the day, we are extending the life of the landfill. We're having a positive impact on the environment. And I hope to see all members of the Alberni Valley able to be, contributing to that positive change even more so in the future. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Anybody else? So we got a mover and a seconder. That's correct, right? We do have a mover and a seconder on it. Yep. And on the motion, all in favor? Anybody opposed? Director Cote. Okay, so now we have the amendment to the tipping fees for the West Coast landfill, and Director Beckett or Director Robertson, get your hands up.
Yeah, thank you. I would like to defer this report to the West Coast Committee for review prior to considering the bylaw amendments, and I believe it's October the 6th, 2022. Actually, both this decision as well, and also item L, request for decision with regards to bylaw 1036, amendment to West Coast Materials Regulation and Charges. Is that feasible?
Give a seconder, it is.
Thanks.
For a seconder. On the motion, just questioning, did this not go to the West Coast Committee?
No, it didn't. Paulo, did you want to speak to that?
I can. I do see Director Stairs' hand up though, so like to go first, sir.
No, Paula, if you maybe want to give an explanation to that, and then I'll follow up. If I think you'll probably answer what I was going to say. So
No worries, absolutely. And I will actually just zap right down to item L super quickly. But the long and short is the issue was around the scheduling. Sorry, just bear with me. Oof, okay. The issue is, like, we did flag that that around the scheduling of the committee meeting and all that sort of thing was coming up on October 6th. We didn't think that there was going to be enough time to get this before the committee for proper consideration, which is why we brought it to the board at this time. And then we also, because of that, we had flagged an option that it allows still, it's tight, but it's some time to allow it to spin back to the committee for one last time. And then in theory, get over to the board by October the 12th. Fairly tight timeline, but the idea is we're trying to give as much time as we can so that we can get enough communications literature out there around the bylaw amendments, around things getting out into the public as we bring 3Stream online. And part of that is related to what we're doing with bringing the carts in play, which I'm happy to say they're slowly coming onto the island as we speak. And we're looking at the rollout coinciding around the latter part of November, early part of December. So ideally, we want to build up enough time, January 1st, so that people get more familiar, not just with the 3Stream, but also with the new fees, because these are new fees that they have not seen before, because organics is a new thing. That's the piece. I hope I answered Director Stairs' question, but I'll leave that.
Yeah, thank you, Paula. I think it did in essence answer it. I was comfortable moving forward at this time based on that time frame that you had reiterated. But I do see the value, and I respect Director Roberts' need to bring it back to the West Coast Committee, which I do certainly support. I just wanted to hear your explanation for the time framing around the education process with a whole new service and a whole new set of fees coming forward, which I appreciated as well. So I'll leave the motion as it is, and we'll vote accordingly.
Okay. Oh, Terry. So sorry.
Sorry, is the motion for both that and L? Because L could be problematic for us from the finance department. And L is changing the rate or the date for what the implementation is going to roll out. And in order to comply with the District of Tofino and District of Ucluelet asking us to send out reminder invoices for all of the West Coast users prior to transferring to taxes at December 31st, these bills need to hit the streets next week, which is part of why we have L on the agenda. There's no finance department issue with K being deferred.
Go ahead, Director.
Yeah, I understand. I just want to know if there's any problems, and thanks for that, Terry. Yeah, I don't have a problem with L if it's going to be a real time crunch for you, for sure. So let's just defer the first part, K, to the West Coast Committee on October the 6th. I don't know if Tom has any other comments.
Second, you're okay with that? Okay, on deferring K. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Paulo, you're opposed. Carry. And going on to request for decision bylaw R1036-1. Okay, Director Steer.
Well, I saw Director Roberts, but I'll move the recommendation, and it's a long one, that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors get first reading to bylaw R1036. Am I on the right one? Let's just make sure. Yes. West Coast Waste Materials Regulation and Charges Amendment 2022.
And the seconder, Director Roberts. Any further discussion? All in favor? Anybody opposed? Carried. Second
And I'll
reading.
move. Oh, sorry. I'll move second reading.
Seconder, Director Roberts. Okay, all in favor? Anybody opposed? Carried.
And I'll move third reading.
Seconder, Director Roberts, and all in favor? Carried. And adoption.
That the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors adopt bylaw R1036-1 West Coast Waste Materials Regulations and Charges Amendment 2022.
And Director Roberts seconded before you did that, so we're good to go. All in favor? Carried. Okay, for electoral areas directors only. Planning matters. So we have DVB 22004, Coombsma and Wells. And who's taking this? Oh, Alex is.
Thank you, Chair McNabb. I would be happy to introduce the application. The first one we have for you is a development variance application for the property located at 9175 Bain Road in the Beaufort area. The variance would reduce the watercourse setback from 100 feet to 50 feet to allow for the construction of a farm building. Notices were sent out to neighboring property owners and residents on September the 9th, and no correspondence has been received from the public. So at this point, staff recommending the board issue the development variance. Happy to answer any questions.
Any question? Dr. Shannon? No.
No, I'm happy to move the motion if you want me to read it out.
Yes, please.
I would move that the Board of Directors issue development variance permit DVB 22004.
Seconder? Director Cote. Anything on the motion? All in favor? Carried. No. Wasn't seeing anybody opposed. Now we have temporary use permit, DUP 22005 Shannon, not our Shannon, but some other Shannon. And go ahead,
Thank
Alex.
you very much. Yeah, the next application is a temporary use permit application for the property at 232 Albion Crescent in the Long Beach area. The applicants intend to operate, the main portion of the house is a short-term vacation rental while residing in the newly renovated basement suite located within the house. The Long Beach Advisory Planning Commission considered the application on September 8th, where they supported the application as presented. Planning staff do want to highlight that the property owners would reside on site to mitigate any nuisance concerns, and that the addition of the basement suite earlier this year, allowing the partial rental of the home, does not remove the dwelling from the overall housing stock in the community should this permit be approved. We do recognize that housing availability is an ongoing concern and discussion throughout the region, but acutely aware that it is an issue on the West Coast, and we want to work together with the district of Euclid, particularly in this area, to address how we approach short-term rentals, permit applications in the Long Beach area in the future. But again, given the nature of this application, staff do recommend that the board proceed with the neighbor notification process for the temporary use permit application. Thank you.
Director Robert.
Yeah, I would make that recommendation that the board of directors consider issuing temporary use permit TUP 22005, subject to the neighboring properties being notified as per Local Government Act S 494.
Seconded. Dr. Cote, anything more on this? All in favor? Anybody opposed? Carried. Now we've got development variance permit application for DVD 22005.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a development variance application for the Sprout Lake area for a waterfront lot located on Sunset Road along Sprout Lake. The variance would reduce the side yard setback on the south side from 15 feet to 7 feet, and the water course setback from 100 feet to 50 feet from a drainage course adjacent to the property to allow for the construction of a small house with an attached garage. Notices for this application were mailed out to neighboring property owners and residents again on September 9th. One letter of correspondence was received from the public, and it was a letter of support from the neighbor on the south side that would be most impacted by the reduction in that side yard setback. The letter of support is attached to the staff report for your review, and at this time, staff recommend that the board issue the development variance. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. At this time, I would move that the bylaw P1436 Sprout Lake official community amendment plan be adopted.
Seconder. Dr. Roberts.
Oh, no, sorry, wrong
Sorry.
one. That the Board of Directors issue development variance permit DVD 22005.
Sounds better.
Yeah.
Dr. Roberts, second. Anything on this? Director Bodner, were you commenting or waiting? Okay, so on the motion, all in favor? Anybody opposed? Carried. And RD 21009 Sprout Lake Landing Inc. a rezoning application.
Sure, I'd be happy to introduce that one, Mr. Chair. This is a rezoning application for the Sprout Lake Landing property located at 10695 Lakeshore Road in the Sprout Lake area. The applicants intend to rezone a 4.3 acre portion of the property on the south side of Wiener Creek from rural A2 district to tourist commercial C6 district in order to accommodate up to 15 cottage style accommodation units as an extension of the existing hotel, restaurant, and commercial retail store uses. The rezoning application also involves an OCD amendment to redesignate this portion of the property to commercial use, which is the land use designation that extends across the waterfront portion of that property. As a bit of background, the board gave the bylaws second and third reading on June 8th after receiving the public hearing report and minutes at the April 13th board meeting. There were a number of conditions of rezoning approval that the board applied to the consideration of the bylaws. These conditions are outlined in the staff report presented for you, and I want to just quickly summarize them here. They include the registration of a restricted covenant to limit the number of units to 15, restrict the floor area of each unit to 1,200 square feet of habitable space, include green space within the development that would include a 15-meter vegetation buffer along Weiner Creek and a 3-meter vegetated or landscaped buffer along the west, south, and east lot lines, as well as securing access to the lake through the main property. Another condition was confirmation that the property is capable of accommodating on-site sewage disposal for the proposed density, referral to Island Health to determine requirements for the operation of a private water system to service the units, referral to the Sprout Lake Fire Department to confirm that adequate fire protection can be provided for the cottage development, and then meeting all technical referral agency requirements. So these conditions are discussed in greater detail in the report. In staff's opinion, all of the conditions of rezoning and approval have now been satisfied. With respect to the application process in general, staff have considered the applicable procedural requirements to the rezoning application and have sought legal advice on it. Staff's view is that the board may proceed with consideration of the bylaws at this meeting without calling a further public hearing. And just want to highlight that deferring a decision on the bylaws at this time could introduce risk to the rezoning process. So given all of that, and as highlighted in the report, staff recommend that the board proceed with adoption of bylaws P1436 and P1437, and we are happy to answer any questions.
Director Guthrie.
Thank you. This has been a contentious issue, application to the community. I have heard extensively from my community regarding this application and have been delegated to be their voice on this board. I've received many calls, many emails, videos, and now I have a petition that I'd like to bring forward. And I don't know if I should be reading this petition, what it says at this point.
I think just that we make note of it, that if it's formally received by the corporate officer, then it is deemed to be received.
I would actually like to read it, but
I think that it might jeopardize the public hearing process. So I think if it's recorded that we handed it to the corporate officer, I think that probably satisfies that.
but if there's new information in here, then I've already read it, so that would jeopardize the public hearing.
I'd leave that to staff. I think we've had some.
Through the chair, I think the without knowing the details of the petition, the general legal angle that has been seen on a petition is that if it is adding voices to a perspective that has already been considered or heard by the board, then it's not new information. It is simply enforcing a view that has already been expressed. Now, again, I don't know the details of the petition, but understanding the voices that have been heard so far, I would assume, which might be a mistake, but I would assume that the petition would not be legally seen as new information at this time. It would simply be an enforcement of an existing view.
Sorry about that. Go ahead, Alex.
Okay, Chairman, just to add to those comments from Daniel, thank you for that. New information received by a director following public hearing must be new information, and it's not just restating information that was received during the hearing. And further to that, the new information must be before the board and considered by the board in deciding whether or not to pass the bylaws. So the background advice from staff on the bylaws, discussion around the issues that were raised at the public hearing, resolving issues that were raised at the public hearing do not necessarily constitute new information. Again, we would have to review the contents of a petition before making a determination on the potential impact on the process. But I will highlight again that this may be considered information that is restating information or opinions that were provided in the public hearing. Thank you.
Could I make a suggestion then? Why don't you move deferral subject to that being scrutinized by staff, and then we can go from there.
Okay, there's other information that was given to me also that I believe might have been shared with the staff. At least not sure if other directors had actually opened up emails that were sent to them or if they received the information, but there's actual videos that were sent to me that I would like to, at this point, make a motion to defer to investigate if there is new information regarding sewage issue and or other. I feel like new information, this would give staff time to do due diligence to defer. So motion to defer.
Are you seconding? Yeah, okay. And I see you have your hand up there as well, Bob. Is that on purpose or?
Yes, I did want to comment, but I'm just procedurally wise. There's a motion now before us. I'm happy to second it if someone hasn't seconded it, and I did want to add my comment.
Yes, it has been seconded by Director Roberts, but you can comment.
For a deferral on this for 1 month until the next meeting with a hope, and I have no idea, listening to Daniel and to Alex and others regarding the legality of the public hearing. So I'm proceeding with caution. Please let me know if I'm out of line, but my hope would be a deferral would allow potentially the developers and the neighborhood to come together one more time to see if they can resolve some of their issues.
That might be an outcome of it. I don't think it's part of the motion. So anyhow, we have a motion to defer, and all in favor? Anybody opposed? Carried. All righty, moving on. Reports, staff reports. Anybody want to pull anything out of the staff reports? Nope. North Island 911. I attended my last official meeting at North Island 911, and we have some items in camera that we're going to discuss with regards to that. There is a rather large report that was done by a consulting group with regards to the function and efficiency of our fire dispatch in Campbell River. It's quite a large document, and it goes through a lot of recommendations, all of which were supported by the board. So if anybody's particularly interested in that, I could forward it to them. And that's about that. I think we didn't really cover much other than the potential budget impacts of trying to settle out all these recommendations. That's pretty much it. Next, we have Vancouver Island Regional Library.
Thank you. The library, there was a meeting on Saturday, and there was a vote on the budget with a 9.404, I think, for the regional district increase. I voted against the budget with 3 other members, but the budget passed, so there will be an increase. A lot of the costs are fixed. The reason why I was voting against the budget is trying to send a message to the province that we need higher assistance with grants for libraries to help assist with meeting the community's needs. There's a lot of small communities which are struggling with infrastructure costs, and with an increase like this coming at them, there was mention that maybe small communities couldn't afford to pay their full bills. So anyways, we have an increase coming. Thanks.
And Alberta Valley Chamber of Commerce, Director Minions, you're still there?
Director Minions has indicated that she had to step away for a quick 30-minute meeting, so she is likely not there.
Air Quality Council, Director Bodner.
Thank you. There hasn't been a meeting yet in September, so I'm still waiting to hear when the next date will be.
West Coast Aquatic.
No meeting, no report.
Okay. AVICC.
AVICC, we had a very successful lunch at UBCM. We had the premier at our table. People got to talk to him. We had a lot of the ministers from our area that attended our lunch and sat amongst everybody. So people had a real advantage of talking to the minister and the premier besides the UBCM quick run-throughs. So big advantage of having them living in our area. AVICC has been without an executive coordinator since June 15th. And I was in Victoria doing interviews Thursday and Friday past week. And we have two wonderful, successful candidates that we would love to bring on. So we're in negotiations at the moment. Well, actually, we aren't. It's a transitional contract between UBCM for 8 months, and then it transfers. The contract will transfer to AVICC. UBCM no longer wants to be the employer of our executive coordinator. None of the other 5 associations that make up UBCM are supported by UBCM in this manner. So moving on to, we're being orphaned. So, but the interviews were very successful, and can't wait till this one person starts very soon. Thanks.
Brady, Beaver Creek Water Advisory Committee, just other than the report that Karen Place main replacement is underway. Probably above that, so that's it. And Sawakan hasn't met. Agricultural Development Committee, Director Shannon.
Thank you. We just had a meeting on September last week. Last week we had a meeting. There was an update to the committee from Penny. So thank you, Penny, for that. And they updated the entire committee. They reviewed Family Farm Day this year, which was held in person again versus virtual, and they found it very successful. They had a lot of new and younger families checking out some of the farms to ask questions about farming and gardening to kind of get into that for themselves, and that they had their highest attendance at the fall fair this year that they've had. I believe it was the 75th year this year. So they were very happy with that. A few kinks, but they're working that out for next year and shaking off the rust from 2 years of not doing it. But overall, a good meeting. The next meeting is October 18th, and then that will be my last meeting as the director sitting on that committee. So somebody else gets to take that over after the elections. That's all I got for a report.
Red Fish Restoration Society.
Yeah, thank you. We had a budget finance meeting on Monday, which I was unable to attend. So I don't have any report, but everything looked good. Thank you.
And other reports you have in your file, the Heritage Commission meeting minutes from September 7th. So we need to receive those, or just receive the reports and that'll receive that. Okay, so we need to receive the members' reports. Some motion of that. So Director Roberts, Director Beckett, all in favor? Carried. Unfinished business, late business question period. You had somebody online with a.
Yes, we have one note. We've lost the attendee, no attendees, but there are some public in the room.
Okay. Question periods from the public. Yep. You're going to question. Need your name and address. My name is Chris Law. I live at Montreal. You push the button on the right-hand side. Check. I got it. Okay. Okay, my name is Chris Law, 10693 Tilley Road, Port Alberni, BC. So my question is it common for an OCP to have an important clause that references geographic points that are not marked on the map? Would this not make the comment invalid as it has no official geographic reference to be based on? That's a good question. Certainly don't have the answer myself.
I'd be happy to answer that.
Sure.
Yeah, so it is common to have that. And are you referencing the mention of the West Bay area in the OCP?
Yeah, the West Bay is the clause that I'm talking about, but there's no reference on any map the AC already has. It says where this West Bay area is that clause refers to.
When that OCP was developed, that is a common term for a neighborhood in Sprout Lake, and the intention was to focus tourist commercial uses around that node in the West Bay area.
So is it common to have a vague statement that has no geographic boundaries, that the people that live in that area cannot determine where that clause refers to because it's open to interpretation?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Okay. I can answer that. And yes, I've worked for 4 different communities in BC, and I can say that each one of them certainly has that. I can reference Qualicum Beach that has an East Village area, which is quite common. It's referred to as a general area east of Memorial, but it doesn't have a start or end point, and nor is it actually a registered name for that community. But it's a term that's used. So in many OCPs, there are general areas that are referred to in dialogue with the citizens that don't necessarily align perfectly with street boundaries, for example.
Right. And then one more question. Is it common for staff to tell directors a rezoning is supported by the OCP when there are clauses in the residential thing that clearly say the rezoning is not supported by the OCP?
So certainly, as we review rezoning applications and as we make recommendations to the board, we are referencing the OCPs as well, and there is a policy in the Sprout Lake OCP that supports the expansion and location of tourist and neighborhood commercial services in the West Bay area. There's also policies in there that support short-term rental accommodation and development permit area requirements in commercially designated land uses as well. And that's what staff have relied on in providing our advice.
Okay, there's also a policy that says residential is supposed to say residential. Yeah, I mean, I would say to that, we constantly are bombarded with temporary use permits in residential areas that really kind of lend towards, they're becoming commercial. So it's not uncommon for the OCP to be adjusted with these TUPs that we're facing in every jurisdiction, not Sprout Lake, but every jurisdiction that they hit that way. So certainly is something that lands on our table more than once a month, that's for sure. Okay, yeah, that's temporary. This is sort of a permanent decision. The temporary is 6 years, so it's pretty permanent. Okay, thanks for the opportunity. Thanks for your comments. All righty. One more, sorry. If you could. Mic's on there, so you're good to go. You need to introduce yourself and your address.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. My name is Barbara Smith, and I live at 107 Lakeshore Road. So I'm an interested community member here around this zoning issue. I think there is new information, and one of the important new information regarding this is there's new owners.
So I would just caution you that we won't accept any new information at this level. So if you have new information,
My apologies.
I would give it to staff. And
my-
staff are quite willing to take that information and deal with it as they see fit, or if it isn't deemed to be new, then it will be transferred to the directors. So the public hearing process is that, so.
Right,
If
okay,
you're- if
my
your
apologies
comments
to you.
that are not new information, then go at it.
Okay. Well, my question is that we as community members, you know, I myself have been there for over 30 years. And I really appreciate the environment there. And I would like to, I know it's in your plan, you have said you'd like to protect the natural integrity of the rural area. And I trusted that. But I'm feeling that, and maybe this is my question, is it typical in these kinds of zoning issues for it to be such a pro-development situation and to completely ignore and disregard community input?
So, I mean, that's a broad question. I think it's
a broad one,
It's really
yeah.
difficult to answer that. I'd like to speak to the environmental side because that is something that was discussed at length in the public hearing. We do have development preliminary requirements for development along minor watercourses and major watercourses, and Weiner Creek being a minor watercourse, there is a 15-meter development permit area within that. And then further to that, the owners have agreed to a covenant that would establish a 15-meter vegetated buffer from the natural boundary of Weiner Creek on their onto their property. So the intention there is to limit the impact on the environment, and that follows the policies and guidelines we have in the SCP.
One further question. What does the deferral mean? What does this mean here? Like,
Through the chair, a deferral simply means that the decision was not made today, it was pushed back, and the information that was provided will be reviewed by staff, so that we can understand whether it qualifies as new information, and if so, we have to apply the right process.
so that in that case, then it's not necessarily just deferred until next month. It's deferred until a decision is made. Is that correct?
Understanding the timing of the election cycle and whatnot in this one, it would likely be deferred to the October 13th board meeting. And if for whatever reason we can't make those dates, then it would be deferred to a later date. So there was no specific date on this deferral. And a deferral is different from an indefinite deferral. So there are motions to defer indefinitely, which would mean that it's really never coming back. This is not the case. This is a motion to defer for a specific reason of reviewing information that we're going to do.
Will the community be advised of the date that it will come forward?
The director will certainly be advised, so that the director is in communication with the community. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Please identify yourself and your address. Thank you.
My name is Kimberly Smith and my address is 10750 Lakeshore Road. And I guess I kind of wanted to have put her question a little bit more into, has there or will there be an environmental study on this at all? Because you can say, I'm just feeling like, you can say whatever, but like they've tried to put other things there and because of the reptilian or the frogs, whatever you call it, on both sides and the salmon, other projects that they've tried to do there had to have a environmental study.
At the answer. So the development permit guidelines require a assessment from a qualified environmental professional for any development, land clearing, vegetation removal, or building. within the development permit area. And those development permit areas are 15 meters from the natural boundary of a natural watercourse. So if there is any development proposed within 15 meters of a natural watercourse, then they will be required to hire a qualified environmental professional. But again, I would highlight that the covenant that they have agreed to would restrict any development within 15 meters of Weiner Creek.
Okay, I guess I don't know that much about environmental studies, but 15, the land, if you were there, the land is like a big rock. So does 15 meters? In my mind, I'm trying to figure out if 15 meters really addresses it, because anything that's on top of the rock would fall down into the water. And so I would really like to know more about that.
I think we're getting into that kind of unknown territory, and the question is what received by staff, and certainly they can consider whether or not that's an appropriate approach. So thank you for that.
I would like you. That's all.
So we really need to be
I'll be precise.
cognizant of.
So what is the minimum lot size for the new zoning? And can the owner sell the lot once it's been rezoned to commercial? What's the minimum lot size for that new rezoning?
I'd have to look it up. Give me a second. So the minimum lot size in the C6 zone is 15,000 square feet. For the purposes of subdivision, new subdivisions need to comply with both the minimum lot size in the OCP as well as the minimum lot size in the zone.
Okay, so then that facilitates that, because currently it can't be subdivided and sold because of the current lot size, but then this rezoning will facilitate the ability for him to sell that portion property under the current zoning.
The current zoning has a 5-acre minimum lot size. So
yeah, so it's 4 point something, so we can't subdivide that off the main parcel because it's too big or too small right now, but then once you rezone it, you can subdivide it and sell it.
there are a lot of factors there that I'm not sure where.
Now that answers my question. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you for your input. I appreciate it. And thank you for being respectful of our position. Thank you. All right. So now we're going to recess to motion to go to the regional hospital district meeting. So somebody move the recess. We moved the recess, right?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Mover and a seconder. Look at all those people. Bob and Diane. Second. And all in favor? We're going to the hospital. Well, not directly. So I'd like to call a meeting of the Hospital District Board of Directors to order for Wednesday, September 28th. And I would like to recognize that we are primarily meeting on the traditional territories of the Tishat and Apache First Nation, and that we honor and recognize that and understand that we are actually coming by internet from many, many other locations, and that we also honor and respect their presence on those lands. I'd like approval of agenda, please. Director Cote and Director Wagner. Any additions, deletions? We're all happy, all approved? Approval? Opposed? We're good. And adoption of the minutes of the Board of Directors meeting, August 24th, 2022. And second, Director Steer. And anything on those minutes? Approval? Anybody opposed? Nobody? We're good. Oh, Ron, did you have a comment? Sorry. Was that a comment or just a happy wave?
Both, John.
Okay.
At the last meeting, I asked a question regarding visitation rights, and I think several of you folks had a meeting that morning with the hospital board, and I wonder if we ever found out why the visitation rights seem to be a little bit different here in Port Alberni than other hospitals. And, you know, my guess is it could very well be staffing issues, but just wondering if you guys got an answer to that. Thank you.
Through the chair, I can say that I do not have an answer for you yet. I have another meeting next Wednesday, Ron, and I'll make it a point to follow up.
Could be just you too. Just saying. Okay, so on the minutes, all in favor of receipt? Opposed? Nobody. Okay, we're rolling right through this. Bamfield Health Center, Director Beckett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Bamfield Health Center is looking to hold a COVID/flu vaccine session in November. They'll get back to us once they firm that up. Anyone who is in a high-risk situation and wants a vaccine should book it at the Port Alberni Clinic until such times as we are offered something locally. There is a new model of care approved by VHA for Bamfield. There will now be 2 nurses staffing the facility, which is wonderful for many reasons, including appropriate staffing and safeguards for the nursing. And British Columbia Ambulance Service, in cooperation with our local SAR, is now transporting many patients via the water from Bamfield to Port Alberni, which is saving time and generally is much more comfortable for the patients. So that's a great initiative, and hats off to our volunteers in SAR. That's my report, sir.
Appreciate it. Thank you. ACCS, Diane, I saw you walking in there, so I know you went to the meeting.
Thank you. Yes, over the summer, there's been a couple of 3 COVID cases there, and right now they have 2 more. The symptoms apparently are very mild, and they are able to handle the situation. Visitors are still being tested regarding COVID. Staffing is still fluctuating, especially getting enough nurses. But they have enough staff right now where everybody's been able to have some holidays, anyway, summer holidays. They have hired a physiotherapist, and they find that that's going to be a big asset to the programs. They're going to be reviewing their strategic plan for on the 15th of October, and it will last for 3 years. They've been upgrading some of their software and also doing a lot of renovations, especially in the kitchen areas. That's it.
Thank you. I don't want to go to that 3-year strategic plan meeting. That's too long to be in a meeting. Anyhow, West Coast Native Care Health Society.
Thank you. Haven't been to a meeting recently, but they've completed their accreditation meetings, made actions to make some changes with their staffing policies, and doing very well. I think that their 40-unit low-cost housing is open now. I know that it was supposed to happen in the September, beginning of October. So very close if it hasn't happened already.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Tofino General Hospital.
Both the site director and chief of staff were unavailable, so no report today.
Alberni Clayoquot Health Network, Penny Cote.
Thank you.
I didn't forget it.
Yes. So we did have a meeting recently. There's a youth group reach out that's ongoing. Oh, and I recently did an Island Health Network review. So we were, Marcy and myself were interviewed, and Thompson was included in the presentation. Did you receive that? Wendy?
No, I haven't received it yet, but it's coming.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Very interesting. We're asking for more money too, so they do see the value of health networks, which is very important for the continuation of that program. So thank you.
Okay, West Coast General Hospital, the only thing I can add is the reason that the ambulances are going to the front door and that all patients accessing the emergency room are going through the front door is because they're painting the superstructure with some really sticky paint that will never come off of whatever goes there. So that's why they've had to move the access so people don't get it on, they don't get it on their cars, they don't get it on the ambulances, and hopefully that's going to be over with shortly. That's it. Any other reports? Alrighty, motion to receive reports. Director Roberts and Director Steer, all in favor? Carried. No late business, no question period. Nobody online for questions? And motion to adjourn. And seconded, who seconded? You moved, somebody's, Diane seconded, all in favor? Carried, we're adjourned. Did you want to take like a 5-minute break so we can, before we go in camera? Is that 4:20, do we need a break or we just carry on? We're carrying on. Okay, so as a motion to close the meeting to the public as per the charter, community charter sections 901F, law enforcement, if the board considers that the disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the conduct of an investigation under or enforcement of an enactment. 2, 9011, or I, rather, the receipt of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. And 391J, information that is prohibited or information that, if it were presented in a document, would be prohibited from disclosure under Section 21 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, 421(1)(c) and I of FO, Freedom of Information, is that what it is? FOIPPA, harm significantly the composite competitive position or interfere significantly with the negotiating position of a third party. So seconder on that?
Second, W. Coots.
Who did that? Director Coots. Holy smokes. There you go. Appreciate it. Thank you. And all in favor? Anybody opposed, say aye. We're in.